MTV was created first, but then VH1, the early days of VH1 was like, okay, we see what you guys are doing with like all these young, hot, spring break, naked girls. And VH1 was like, remember Elton John? I do. and I want to bring him onto this. Like, so they were more about like the actual artists, and like they didn't care about like who was new. They cared about like the genuine, iconic, legendary artists that like shaped music.
And like the full picture, right? So it's like we're getting the music videos, we're getting behind the music videos. Like we're getting this peek, this full picture into artists. And they probably were like, oh yeah, MTV is music television, but we're actually gonna like do a more sophisticated version of this.
And we're not afraid. We're not afraid of like, oh, is this gonna sell? Because we care about the music. And so it appealed to a more mature, kind of more like refined audience.
And but no love for emerging artists though?
Yeah.
Only the iconic legacy
They still did emerging artists. They could do it all. But whereas MTV just only cared about like young people and perpetuating the standard that like once you reach a certain age, you don't matter anymore. And VH1 said, oh, that's not true.
That's not true. There's stepdads named Gary who are going to love this. I feel like that's what they
MTV do tributes all the time. What y'all talking about?
I feel like VH1 had that vibe of like Uncle. You know
I agree.
What I mean? Yeah.
I agree.
Uncles matter.
Yeah, uncles, they matter.
Wow.
Wow.
Uncles matter.
You know what I mean?
That is your t-shirt.
Yeah.
That is your t-shirt. Uncles
I'm sorry,
matter.
but like uncles, if uncles aren't happy, who's happy?
No,
everybody.
Everybody else. Literally everybody else.
Uncles. If you're an uncle, I want you to comment. I'm an uncle, and I appreciate Alyssa for saying that I matter. VH1 was for the uncles.
Yeah.
It was for the.
But I
uncles.
feel like VH1 like kept a pulse. Like, yes, MTV was like doing these cool like headline like things, stunts, whatever, like a upgraded Nickelodeon, if you will.
Yeah.
But like VH1 is like keeping the pulse on music. Like they had their weekly top 10. Like people came to them for like the actual facts. You know, we'll get to divas later.
They knew that like talking about Billy Joel and Whitney Houston, like that was going to be enough. They didn't need the they didn't need the fake ass reality television, which we all know is detrimental.
Then why did they copy MTV?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a copy, but like a little bit of a weird copy. Like we had TRL. That's what mattered. TRL made artists.
TRL was actually the polls. That top 20 countdown y'all talking about on Saturday morning, we wasn't watching. I'm so sorry.
Maybe you weren't watching
Carson
it.
okay?
Carson is actually thriving.
So much TRL. Like,
he did too many episodes.
He did too many episodes.
Yeah, he did too many episodes.
Poor Carson. He never got to change his outfit.
Yeah, he was always dressed like an uncle.
He was familiar for us after school.
Yeah.
Some of us needed that familiarity.
In those boxy jackets they always put him in. Sorry, Carson.
And we were talking about this earlier, but we were like, MTV is really the precursor to TikTok, which is destroying our society.
And paying my bills.
Just to speak to
we
Carson,
love them.
I will say Carson Daly did sort of feel like he belonged with VH1. And I bet that, and this is alleged, but I'm sure VH1.
What the hell?
I'm sure that they tried to get him.
No, I know what you mean. But it was
Carson Daly would never in his boxy jacket life step foot on that top 20 countdown.
But I agree.
Yeah.
He's more VH1 vibe in my head too. Okay, but this is why they got him, because remember,
not on an island.
MTV also had news like really early on. Dave, what was Dave's last name? I just met him at a wedding. Dave Holmes. And who was the other guy? The dreads.
Sway, Such and Pac, Ananda. We had our VJs and our news anchors.
Yeah, and VJs, they brought in, you know, all these like Pauly Shore. There was like VJs that were like the faces of the network, which no network had done before.
Well, VH1 knew that the face of their network would be the stars. The musicians. They didn't need need to bring in people. They don't need to bring in personality.
News source. It's not a news source.
This isn't the news. Go to
MTV
NBC.
was almost like, let's just throw anything at the wall and see if we'll get viewers.
We're about to have another conversation about the full package.
Right.
Wow. MTV gave us music videos. They gave us interviews with the stars.
Shows.
They gave us TV shows. They gave us animation.
They gave us the award.
They gave us the
Moon Man.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Get him again, Jay.
Yeah. We can talk about that if you want.
They gave us moments. I mean, the kiss between Britney and Christina wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the VMAs.
Which, by the way, if you're interested in that,
you
you can go to our other episode, which is Britney v. Christina.
Okay, so sure, MTV gave us the VMAs, but then VH1 would do something like Behind the Music to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
what?
that to me is, it's actually giving.
Yeah, it's like the Cliff Notes.
Grandfather.
and divas, right?
Oh,
they had divas, which is.
I don't even want. I'm gonna get really passionate if I talk about
divas.
Let's
do it.
You
Let's
guys know. Everybody
Yeah.
knows how I feel about divas, and I don't know. I think it's just one of those things where, they focused on was the vocals, the performances, the talent.
Yeah.
And that was it. They didn't need any flashy anything. They didn't need the stunts. They didn't
don't
need
need
that.
slime
they had
coming
the
off the
talent.
walls.
They had the talent and they weren't afraid to bring on Aretha and to bring on Whitney and these musicians that were maybe older. They didn't care that they were older, and because they said you're a diva no matter how old you are. And that is a problem because once you reach a certain age, once you're past 30, you're out, get out of here. You know, in American Idol, that you have to be 25 to audition for American Idol.
Hey, chill out.
She's okay. Sorry.
Yeah, she's okay.
I'm sorry, your life isn't over because maybe some people when they're 25 are Christian and they don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
I don't know.
Audience,
We lost.
I want to ask a super important question.
Yeah.
Audience, if y'all watching right now and you lived through the 90s and the early 2000s, can you answer this pregunta for myself? That's questioning.
That's questioning.
Español.
Mm-hmm.
Which was more impactful throughout the 90s and the early 2000s? VH1 Divas or the VMAs?
Okay.
Get your fingers click-clacking in the comments and let your voice be heard because we're listening.
And also, like, a network doesn't have to just show music. It also has to entertain and influence people.
Wrong.
I disagree.
You know who should influence you?
Who?
Yourself. You should be influencing yourself.
Yeah, I know, but I also want to be entertained and like.
Oh, so you want to be influenced to Spring Break and have to be naked?
But that's not all that MTV
understand that Spring
showed.
Break is what I wanted to do when I grew up. That was inspirational and motivational. That was good social time, good music, and it looked like a beautiful cocktail.
Here's what we need. We need to be watching people who are building themselves and their career and their craft and like seeing that over a lifetime versus just clickbait headlines. Like we need to be seeing Whitney Houston and Aretha and Elton John, like understanding the hard work and perspective and the creative perspective.
That is what I want my children to be watching if I ever have them.
And to be seeing someone the full length of the career, because I think what MTV was promoting is like, this thing where it's like, okay, you get past 35, what's your marketability? Nothing. Like,
no, I think they were just finally giving a place for kids that age. We didn't have a space where we could enjoy being that age and seeing ourselves on TV. No, when you're younger and you're not in a city where there's no clubs. Like I'm in Virginia where there's like one lesbian club in the middle of the woods. Like we're not allowed in there. And like, so it was finally like a place for us to see ourselves and like to be excited about being young and to like hook up and like listen to music and like also inspire people who are young to be artists, like to want to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you're making a point for VH1 right now.
I think you're making a point for VH1 because what VH1 did with Behind the Music is it showed you the journey and how to get there and how to do it. MTV didn't give you any tools.
It did.
Actually, a lot of the stories that you hear on Behind the Music could be heard in a quick little 10-minute TRL interview.
No,
but
we don't want them in a quick interview.
Sometimes I just want the facts from the artist point of view, and I like to move on.
Sorry,
with
you want a
documentary? Watch a documentary.
Hold on, if you want a Thanksgiving dinner, are you going to get your turkey in the microwave, or are you going to do your slow cooking your turkey? So VH1.
The last thing I'm doing on Thanksgiving is turning on VH1 because they're going to play the Temptations movie
over and over and over again.
What if you want to know about the 80s? I love the 80s. Yeah. I love the 90s. What if you want to get a piece of culture and understand from people at that time, comedians talking about it, debating about it. What if you want to hear about that?
What if it's kind of like what we're doing right now?
Okay,
without just like clickbait headline. Like, what if we're trying to learn something?
I was on that show and I didn't know anything about that show because everything I learned was from MTV. I couldn't have been on that show without the knowledge that I learned on MTV.
If I was your boss, I would fire you.
In order for that show to exist, MTV had to come first. Once again, it's a Britney Christina situation.
I agree.
You're giving too much power to MTV and not enough power to the actual artists and the songs and the radio. Hello?
But that's what we're fighting. It's not about the network. It's about the network and their vision.
VH1 was kind of more of like a pit stop because I feel like whenever an artist wanted to promote something new, they would always go to MTV first. Certainly not VH1